Okay, hi guys, and welcome to the show. Today, no wristwatch check because I'm test driving another watch, and this is related to an Instagram post I shared a couple of weeks ago of Travis Scott, the hip hop artist, wearing a very tasteful Patek World Time. So I asked Watchbox, any possibility I could borrow one? And sure enough, they were like, yeah, sure. Which one would you like? Platinum, yellow gold, white gold, to match the signet ring. I went with yellow gold. So without further ado, let's take a closer look, spend some time with it, and see how it really is in the flesh. This is the Patek Philippe 5131J World Time in yellow gold and was first introduced in 2006. This complication has always been synonymous with haute horology and Patek in particular for almost a century now. To really understand this watch and why it is worth so much, we have to understand three things: the history of the complication, the craftsmanship involved in its production, and how it all comes together in a truly beautiful timepiece. First, we have to go back to the 1930s, long before the proliferation of commercially available jet travel. World Time watches captured the imagination of its onlookers with its dial displaying in real time key cities across the planet's 24 time zones. From exotic locales like Rio de Janeiro and Tahiti, the genius of Geneva watchmaker Louis Cotier made it possible not just to tell time in many far-flung locales, but also to evoke stirrings of adventure and travel. Cotier succeeded where previous attempts were failures, with dials that were cramped to barely legible cities. His design was ingeniously simple. His heure universelle. Once the user has aligned the local time with the 12 o'clock point, the watch and its corresponding outer ring would correctly display the correct time in both hours and minutes, and night or day, simultaneously, all on a single dial. In 1953, Louis Cotier made an important improvement to this invention: the ability to adjust the city disc via a secondary crown. This then allowed Patek Philippe to eventually patent a system in 1958, where the hour hand could be moved without affecting the regular progression of the minute hand. Refinements for the user-friendliness continued, and in 1999, eventually the crown was superseded by a pusher, which performed the adjustments for three functions: city disc, 24-hour, and the hour hand. His brilliance was acknowledged by the prestigious Geneva brands like Patek Philippe, Rolex, Vacheron Constantin, and Longines, as he became a specialist supplier of World Time watches to each of the celebrated brands. What separates this World Time from all the others is the laborious handmade cloisonné technique used to create that exquisite dial. Enameling is a decorative technique that's existed for at least 4,000 years. It's made with a silica and colored with a metal oxide pigment that's heated at about 1000 degrees Celsius to melt into a glossy translucent coating. It is then painstakingly applied, and because of the high risk of cracks or air bubbles appearing during firing, rather astonishingly, nearly half of the dials finished in enamel fail during production and are simply discarded. However, this complicated process is worth it, as the final finish lasts for a lifetime and could go on lasting for centuries. It ensures the colors will still be rich, vivid, and glossy as when it was first made. There are several different ways of applying an enamel finish, the most difficult being cloisonné. Of course, this is the preferred method for Patek Philippe, and it specially refers to the division of the dial into multiple landmasses, framed beautifully by gold. Incredibly, this process is all done by eye, requiring a supreme amount of skill before the careful application of the enamel. Care is taken to the transition of colors, such as the lighter blue seen in the coastline areas and the browns that separate the equatorial deserts from the greenery either side. With the enamel remaining liquid until it's fired, gradients in color are extremely tricky to do. Watchmaking, especially at the high end, has always been about the precision and skill of the people who assemble the piece in question. Here, the artistry extends far beyond the mere aesthetics and inside you will find another masterpiece, the legendary caliber 240HU, which is a mechanical automatic self-winding movement. It has endured and evolved for over 40 years and has remained a heavy-hitting innovator when it comes to ultra-thin movements and provided the mechanical backbone to many iconic Patek watches. It's constructed with a monometallic Gyromax balance wheel, 33 jewels, 239 components in total. Its slenderness is maintained by including a solid 22-karat gold off-center mini rotor, and the mechanism oscillates at a frequency of 21,600 vibrations an hour with a 48-hour power reserve. As well as on the front, we have a sapphire crystal on the back too. This expansive display back enables the viewer to enjoy the full array of decoration, from perlage, finishing, Geneva stripes, polished screw heads and chamfered edges, beveling on all the bridges, and of course, it being a micro rotor, you really get to enjoy seeing the magic of the mechanics at work. The free-sprung balance is very tough. It's adjusted to 6 positions. Included is the Spiromax silicone hairspring that allows the watch to be robustly anti-magnetic and tested to a chronometer level. The rotor bearings are also a high-tech ceramic. These are specially lubricated for reduced maintenance in the long term and for improved winding efficiency in the short term. The case is entirely 18-karat yellow gold in a high polish, with a luster that isn't too brash or yellow. It also gives the piece an undeniable heft and a very solid feeling. You certainly feel its weight on the wrist. At 39.5 millimeters in diameter, it feels very modern in comparison to your typical Calatrava dress watch. The curved lugs extend outwards quite far, and so it wears even larger. But at 10 millimeters in height, thanks to the micro rotor, it helps it keep it very cuff-friendly. The watch comes on a leather strap and fastens using an oversized version of the famous Calatrava cross, which I think is especially fitting here, as it utilizes its original meaning as a good luck charm. However, this time around, not for the Knights of Calatrava, but rather the international traveler wearing the timepiece. The 3 o'clock crown guards follow the curvature and line of the crown's extremity seamlessly, something you'd expect more in a sports watch, but it works very elegantly here. At the 10 o'clock we see a rounded rectangle pusher that, once pressed, adjusts the 24 city complication by advancing the hour hand in hour increments to get the local time zone when traveling. The dial is full of tiny little details that at first glance can be missed, but this is one of the great advantages of spending some serious time to get to know the watch. And the more and more you experience it, you start noticing all these wonderful little nuances in its design. For example, the tiny dash of red in the triangle to indicate London GMT, the metallic brushed grey of the day section contrasted by the steel blue of the night in the 24-hour ring. These sections are highlighted respectively with a tiny gold sun and moon. The hands are definitely one of my favourite features and are unquestionably inspired by the reference 96 of the earliest 1937 Patek World Time. I feel the Dauphine minute hand combined with the hourglass hour hand working in tandem with the dial has really helped to define the identity of this watch as an icon for the brand. The combination of historic aesthetic traits, the craftsmanship both in the arts and engineering aspects of the watch, along with its flawless execution, make this one hell of a stealth wealth watch. It doesn't scream for attention, but yet captivates you slowly. In fact, something I really enjoyed about wearing this out and about was the fact that most people wouldn't even notice you wearing something that is worth as much as a house on the wrist. Sure, it got compliments, but unless you really know watches, you will simply just enjoy it as something classy and a nice change from your typical ubiquitous luxury sports watch. And going back to the picture of Travis Scott wearing this watch, it's wonderfully refreshing to see music artists embracing such sophisticated and tasteful works of horology rather than the all-too predictable bling. In conclusion, this is a watch for a successful captain of industry that does not need to show off, but rather knows their self-worth. A watch for somebody that has breakfast in New York before catching a flight to have dinner in London, all the while keeping track of family, events, or perhaps investments in time zones around the world at a click of a button. So let's discuss the positives first. Well, unequivocally, it's one hell of a classy watch. You can't deny. You see the artistry, you feel the artistry, not only in its mechanics, but also that cloisonné enamel dial is beguiling. It's just magic. I mean, you're literally wearing a work of art on your wrist, and not just the, technologically speaking, with the mechanics and everything, which is just gorgeous to behold. That huge exhibition case back, and the fact that you can really see the movement, because of course we have the micro rotor. There's a lot going on here. It manages to clearly lay out this complication in a very easy to understand way. It's actually useful as well. I mean, the only problem is I don't have a private jet to make use of this, but actually I have to say today I had to make a phone call to family back home, and if you've got family overseas, you just flick it and instantly see wherever they are what time it is. So it's actually easy to use, and I find myself playing with it. Perhaps I shouldn't, but anyway. What else? The level of detail. It's so subtle. It's perhaps the ultimate status symbol, but one so subdued, so kind of under the radar. You're not necessarily going to know what it is, unless obviously you're into watches. But the attention to detail, the devil in the detail is there. I love that subtle, kind of almost grey blue of the night section of the 24-hour inner rotating disc. The vivid, luscious colours of the enamel dial. And I have to say, I think there's only two painters that Patek employ to do this, and actually that brings on a really good point. It's a truly exclusive watch. I mean, they do a limited number of these. I'm not actually sure how many they make a year, but it's deliberately kept low. This is undoubtedly the pinnacle of the world timer range. I like the fact that the case is simple. At first I thought, it's a little bit boring, but you know what? It's about what's going on in the dial. You don't want to have it all blinged out and to attract attention away from this beautiful artwork. What else? Well, it's extremely refined. The little gold highlights on the continent, just to really kind of accentuate those beautiful shapes. It's very, very nice. Oh, and I mustn't neglect to mention that hour hand. I love it. It's certainly its own thing. It's like a exaggerated Breguet hand, if you will, but also a little bit like a magnifying glass. Right, so let's discuss negatives, shall we? Unfortunately, this time around, I have to say there seems to be more negatives than there are positives. First of all, despite that pulchritudinous, stunning dial, the font, that italicized font for the cities, it just doesn't do it for me. Thankfully, Patek have addressed this with the latest version in 2019 with the 5231J. They've gone for a more bold look. I think that's so much more refined than this. Secondly, I have to say, it's not the most precise at telling the exact time. But then again, if you've got this kind of money, does it matter if it's 2:15 or 2:17? Well, time is money, I guess. But anyway, it's more for just a kind of vague, rough time telling than like a tool watch or a sports watch, for example. Also, I have to say, I don't feel that I'm dressed well enough to pull this off. This is certainly something you cannot wear casually. I feel like I have to buy a suit just to wear it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's me attributing it to its value. But actually, it's a good point to bring up as well, the lack of robustness. This is a delicate watch indeed. I'd be petrified to wear this every day. But then again, if you've got DuckTales money, who cares, right? Another thing is I'm not a big fan of the little engraving on the bezel. While I understand why they did that, because they didn't want to clutter up the dial too much from that beautiful enamel, I feel it cheapens it a little bit. I don't know how they could improve that, but that's, again, we're venturing off into personal taste. Lastly, I've got to say, the strap, not a fan of the strap. It's very rigid. Yes, of course, with constant wear, it's going to wear into the shape of your wrist. But look, I have a little AP Moon Phase with an ultra thin strap. Very luxurious, very soft, supple. So if the AP can do it with a $6,000 dress watch, why can't Patek do it with something of this price range? Alright guys, so I'm going to leave it there. It's been certainly a memorable day with this. I'm never going to forget it. Started raining, so we went in for a bit of cover, getting a drink in the meantime. I'm going to enjoy my vodka. Wish you farewell. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, found it useful. Also add some comments, let me know your thoughts, and I will catch you in the next one. Chin chin, salute, ciao.
This is a public service reminder for the good Gentry. Please follow us on Instagram, join the Facebook UGWC group, and click on the bell to keep notified of new videos. Don't forget to keep it positive, keep it Gentry, onwards and upwards. Thank you.